This week on the Wheelhouse. Who wants to be mayor? Interviews with candidates from Danbury. For Connecticut Public, I'm Frankie Graziano. This is the Wheelhouse, the show that connects politics to the people. We got your weekly dose of politics in Connecticut and beyond, right here. For the next few weeks, the Wheelhouse is hitting the campaign trail. We're going to be interviewing candidates for mayor in communities across the state. First up, Danbury, the Hat City. For a couple hundred years, Danbury known for its hats, hat makers. Now you might think of the city for its diversity. 30% of the 87,000 people that live in Danbury were born outside the country. That's according to data from the US Census. So to understand how the people of Connecticut's seventh most populous city are impacted by politics in their city, we wanted to go to the politicians themselves. That's right. You're going to hear directly from the candidates. They're going to answer our questions, and they're going to take your questions too. All right, let's get started. We did a coin flip before going live to determine who's going to go first or second. Whoever won got to pick. And we're going to start with Mayor Esposito. The challenger won, but he deferred. He'll get the ball in the second half, I guess. Mayor Dean Esposito, the Republican mayor of Danbury, how you doing this morning? Joining us via Zoom.
Very good, Frank. Thank you. I'm doing very well. Thank you very much.
I'm very happy to have you, and I'm hoping that you'll get some questions from some folks. We're going to invite them to give us a call right now, 888-720-9677. First of all, Mayor, I want you to tell the people who you are and why you should continue to be mayor in your town.
Certainly, Frank. Well, as you said, my name is Dean Esposito. I'm the mayor of Danbury. I was born and raised here in the city of Danbury. I've been quite involved in city government throughout my life, and it's been a real family history, actually. It's in our blood, the Esposito family. I actually have a couple of relatives that are on the city council as well as currently. But my father was a state representative for the city of Danbury, and my grandfather actually ran for mayor back in the 50s. So for me, it's something that it's a passion that I move forward with. And as far as my resume, I worked here in the city of Danbury as the director of consumer protection, and I was honored to be asked to move up to the mayor's office with former Mayor Mark Boughton, who was basically almost 20 years mayor here in the city of Danbury. I ended up becoming the chief of staff for Mayor Boughton in the last few years. And the goal for me is to continue to provide the services that we provide here in the city of Danbury. Danbury is, recently been listed as one of the top 100 cities in the country to live in. And my goal here is to continue the moving the city forward and keeping them at that status. And I think in the year and a half, a little over a year and a half that I've been running or been here as the mayor, we've proven that to the citizens of Danbury. So the goal is simple for me, to keep the city moving forward. We got a lot of positive things happening. We picked up the ball and been running with it as far as some of the things that were put on hold through the COVID years. And things are really moving forward well here.
I love a great football analogy there. So thank you for bringing that in here. 888-720-WNPR is the number to call if you want to talk to Mayor Esposito and ask him a question about Danbury. 888-720-9677. Danbury's a diverse city, as I just went over the numbers. How are you reaching out to residents of color in your city, Mayor?
We're reaching out in many different ways. There's a lot of different community groups that we touch base with every single day. This sounds simple, but we do have flag raisings for each community on our plaza that we've dedicated to that. We have the flag raising for each country on their Independence Day, and then we were able to communicate and socialize and kind of work together on different issues. But the reality is, Danbury is one of the most diverse cities in I think the most in Connecticut and one of the top in the country. So we understand that, we see that, and every person that lives in the borders of the city of Danbury are Danburyans, as far as I'm concerned. So we focus on what we can do to help them in any different ways, and it's been a real honor to be able to represent such a diverse city.
What are you doing to make life easier for English language learners in your town? What are you going to do for all of them?
Well, the reality is when they come to us with concerns that they may have, we address their concerns right away. As far as, English is a second language, we've been promoting that in our school system. We work together closely with every community that comes forward and asks for help. And overall, it's the job of the mayor to evaluate each and every concern that comes to the table. So, it depends on what's happening that particular week or what the issue is of a particular day or month. And, one of the steps I did take as far as being mayor here in the city of Danbury, we've been blessed to be able to hire 46 new police officers since I was elected. My administration focused on diversity there as well. And, we went from maybe 4 officers being bilingual to over 12 officers that are bilingual, actually trilingual. So we're looking at the face of the community, and we're adjusting to that.
And I know that so much of this policy with immigration is kind of a national level thing, but there's been so many different people coming from outside of the country to Danbury since about 2018. I'm going to get to with that later on in the show with Al Robinson, who's going to do some analysis later. But how are you thinking about immigration and policies at the local level?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that, Frank.
How are you thinking about immigration at the local level and maybe ingratiating citizens when they move into town?
Well, Danbury has been known to be a very welcoming city. We're not a sanctuary city overall, but we are very welcoming to those that end up moving here. We have a lot of situations where relatives come after each other to move into the city, and we really haven't had any problem overall. But the reality of the whole scenario is we're going to accept those that come to Danbury and they bring their families and work here and live here. And it's just the overall reality of that is it's a good working relationship altogether. As I said, we got very many communities out there that have the different groups that we deal with, and we find out if there's issues that we need to address, we do it, and we promote helping those. There's a few downtown groups that help with citizenship, and we're going to promote that all the way through.
I should say you can't see it at home, obviously, but if you're listening to us, we are clocking this. We're giving each candidate 15 minutes. We also are giving them an opportunity in that 15 minutes to take phone calls. But there's about 10 minutes or so left. We've got the great Meg Dalton, the producer of this program, taking some time right now. I want to remind folks, if they would like to give us a call, 888-720-9677, the number to call if you'd like to talk to the mayor of Danbury. According to reporting that I found within the Connecticut Mirror, Danbury, the largest city in the state that doesn't have a charter school. Project initially approved by state officials 5 years ago, and a majority of Danbury residents support it, yet the school hasn't been built yet. What's going on with the charter school, and do you support it, Mayor?
I absolutely do support the charter school, Frank, because, the overall picture, as you said, 5 years in tirelessly trying to promote the charter school. Unfortunately, we have a few state representatives and our state senators been working diligently against it for certain reasons. And, we call her out. We call our few of our state representatives out. And these representatives are based in the majority up in Hartford. So it hurts to see that they're not putting a full effort towards that. Just this past session in the state, there were, I think, 3 to 4, including us, other cities that were looking for financing for the charter school. and the others got the money and we're moving forward, but Danbury was denied for some reason. And, we have a philanthropist here in the city of Danbury that's willing to invest millions of dollars to help support a charter school right here in the center of Danbury. And there you go again with the diversity. It gives the parent and the students an opportunity to make a choice and go to a school as far as the charter school is concerned. Questions have been asked or reasons have been made that, the teachers won't have representation. They won't be able to be unionized. We've clarified that a teacher can be unionized or join the union if they'd like. And we just had a PTO meeting just overall the other day where we were interviewed by the PTO, and the questions were asked about what type of information that would be needed for the charter school. And the charter school is a premier location. We got Elevate, which has run other schools, and they're willing to step up. But for me personally, I think a charter school would be a huge asset to the city of Danbury, not only to giving the choice for the parent and the student, but to help relieve the burden of overcrowding in our other schools.
But Mayor, what do you tell the people? Because there's been a groundbreaking. Obviously, the residents have supported this, but there's been a groundbreaking. They've been told time and time again that this is going to happen, but it's not happening yet. So what do you tell the people in the city?
Well, in all honesty, Frank, I have to tell you, you have to call your state senator. And Julie Kushner's our current state senator. Farley Santos is one of our state representatives. Bob Godfrey as well is one of our state representatives, have taken a stand against us being able to provide the citizens of the city of Danbury with a charter school. So at this point, we have to lobby the state and continue to move forward. We've had a coalition here that moved forward and banging on the door of the governor all the way down through. So the goal has been simple to move forward with the charter school, but unfortunately, our state senator and a few of our state representatives throw up a roadblock there.
888-720-9677, the number to call if you want to ask the mayor of Danbury a question here. Mayor Dean Esposito joining us as he is running for re-election. Here's a question I got for you. Rob Reiser, he works for the News Times. He recently reported on zoning efforts in the town. I guess city officials, you guys are looking at a downtown overhaul, and you've also gone to city residents for their input. What have you heard from the people of Danbury related to downtown, and how will you respond to them?
The downtown here in the city of Danbury has been a focal point, obviously, for the last few years. Once we got the Danbury Mall built out there, as I said, I was born and raised here in the city of Danbury. The mall was constructed and took a lot of the patrons out from the city of or downtown Danbury out to the mall. But we have some really good businesses down there right now. We have a few restaurants, but our focus, we've been trying to do everything we possibly can. We give facade grants and different opportunities and low interest loans to the downtown community to try to promote the downtown. But our goals are always going to be there, moving the downtown forward, and the downtown is not owned by the city. A lot of people think that, they'll come to me, Mayor, why don't you put this here and why don't you put that there? But the reality is that the buildings are privately owned. The road itself, Main Street, is a state road. And we work with the state with regards to that. And we lobby up the property owners as well to try to enhance their properties and make it more enticing for business in the downtown.
I got to follow up. You had said something about the mall. I want to talk about the mall because this is something that a lot of us in Connecticut, not just in the city of Danbury where you are right now, this was a destination growing up. These days we're all about going online to shop, and that's really had a big impact on in-person retail. So let's talk about e-tail and it proliferating, and these so-called anchor stores having to bounce from the mall, shopping centers becoming ghost towns. What are you doing to make sure there's life inside the property that has really more than 1 million square feet there at that mall? What can you do as mayor?
Yeah, you're right, Frank. And the mall is one of the biggest generator of taxes to the city of Danbury, which actually go to the state of Connecticut. The city of Danbury is one of the highest taxpayers to the state of Connecticut. But with the mall itself and brick and mortar retail has been taking it's across the country. It's a hard hit for brick and mortar sales, as you said. People seem to think it's easier to go online and get the stuff delivered right to their house. But the Danbury Mall, again, is very prosperous. They're doing very well as far as overall in the mall scenario. But there are opportunities that the mall are looking into for different opportunities to draw, patrons to the mall. They look into more entertainment guideline or, entertainment type of scenarios, and then utilizing larger spaces that have been, left behind by Lord and Taylor and a couple of others. And just recently, we had a request for a zoning issue over there as far as workspace housing. This is one of the things that had been coming across nationally, utilizing those spaces and developing into small business, workspace housing, meaning 1 to 2 people living in those apartments. And it seems to be catching on. We have, I think it may have been last night. I might think that zoning had a meeting with regards to that. I haven't heard the results of that yet. But they're looking to support that because
this is very important. But I'm cutting you off only because there's a minute left, and I want to make sure that you get to talk to the people here. We got a caller. This is Matt from West Hartford. Matt, you have a question for Mayor Dean Esposito. Go ahead.
Good morning, Mayor. Thank you for your articulate responses thus far. I have a question about Western Connecticut State University. As you know, it is over $20 million in debt. The Board of Regents in Hartford is got all kinds of potentials in the plan, and I'm concerned if they use exigency and close that university. What is the city of Danbury's position on that? Thank you.
Thank you for that. Western Connecticut's been a staple here in the city of Danbury forever. It started off as a teaching school for teachers, and it was a college, and it moved to a university. We're very, very proud to have the University of Western Connecticut in the border of the city of Danbury. And they just changed the president. They got a new interim president, Dr. Singh. I met with him as soon as possible, and we've been working together to make sure that the community starts to work together. There's always been this little gap between WestCon and Danbury, but our goals are to continue to support Western Connecticut State College and then lobby the governor and those that make the decision at the state level. I've been reassured that WestCon will be here. It's strong.
Yep. Quick. Yep.
It's strong in its enrollment right now, and we'll continue to support WestCon as always.
And that's our time. And I'm so glad you got to answer a call from a caller. Thank you so much, Mayor Dean Esposito, for coming on. Thank you so much for coming on, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Frank, and thank those listeners as well.
Coming up, you're going to hear from his opponent, Roberto Alves. If you want to ask him a question, maybe you want to hear about his platform, give us a call now, 888-720-9677. This is the Wheelhouse from Connecticut Public Radio. I'm Frankie Graziano. Start out this week's show, you got to hear from Mayor Dean Esposito, but now you're going to hear from his challenger, Democrat Roberto Alves. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here. I listen to you guys on the pod, not live, because I always got something going on, but I do listen, so it's kind of a little fanboy-y right now.
Oh, I appreciate you coming on. 888-720-9677 is the number to call if you want to ask Roberto a question. You hear that the mayor got a question. Hopefully you'll get one. 888-720-9677. Help us. You had a close race last time. You weren't able to win, but maybe you do this year. What should people know about you? Well, introduce yourself a little bit, too.
Yeah, so I've been in Danbury since I was 5 years old. My parents came up from Brazil. I was actually born in Portugal from a Portuguese father, Brazilian mother, but my father was raised in Brazil. We were only there for a couple of years when we went back. And Danbury is all I know. I love this city. It's and I heard you speaking earlier, one of the most diverse cities in the country, definitely in the state. Over 50 languages spoken in our high school, over 60 in the city. It's a real special place. But growing up how I did, and I did grow up undocumented, it was a challenge. There was many struggles that our families faced, and my parents were hardworking people who never stole from anybody, followed the rules as much as they could outside of that one, trying to give their kids a better life. And I really got engaged in politics around the 2015-16 era when we saw what the national climate was like, when the rhetoric was just so opposite of what I knew and what I saw and what my neighborhood did for each other. And also, I had young children. So with that, it snowballed into this sense of national, I got to do something for my community. Sure. And going to Board of Ed meetings as a young father with my wife, seeing the challenges that the Danbury Board of Education has faced under Republican leadership for the last 22 years.
You got a lot of people that speak Portuguese in the town. I've been to the soccer club down there, and I've covered soccer down there. There's also a lot of people that are coming and speaking different languages. There are people from Central and Southern America that are coming as well, as you mentioned earlier when you were talking about Brazil. So just help me about reaching out to people that are diverse in the town and even English language learners.
Well, it's easy to me, as I was an English language learner. I'm trilingual. I speak Spanish fluently. I, learned that working hard in high school. I worked constructions in the summer, then I worked in kitchens, and now I'm an international business traveler who's, had years where I was flying over 40 flights a year. So it was always important to me to be able to talk to people in their native language. So speaking Portuguese and Spanish, when I go to these cultural organizations or to events, soccer tournaments, like you said, everything that our city does, I'm speaking to them one-on-one, and they feel heard. For some, the first time, I was on a city council for 2 years. So it was nice to have somebody there who can speak to them when they had a challenge and be able to talk to them. And it's not so much the language, but it's the shared experiences too. How I grew up, how they grew up, how their children grew up, being able to talk about those English language learners at the schools.
So we got the language. You got 3 languages that you speak. What about beyond that, policy? Can you give us some kind of policy things that you could reach out to English language learners in the town?
Yeah, so let's talk about accessibility, right? When you talk about making government equitable and more accessible, we can start with our website. It's something as easy as making it so folks can read it in a native language as well. So as they're practicing their English and they get more comfortable, they can go back so they can flip between our 3 most spoken languages. You have English, Spanish, and Portuguese. So we're making a commitment to that as well. Policy-wise, it's a challenge for a lot of folks in our city, but it's our educational system. Danbury has consistently been the lowest funded school system in the state of Connecticut. So we have to invest in our kids. We have to invest in our students. When we have 40% of Danbury that falls under the United Way Alice report, we're not a city that is thriving. When you have a system where our guidance counselors are so stretched, 350 plus students per counselor, but when National Associations of Guidance Counselors of America say you shouldn't have any more than 250, all our kids are falling through the cracks. And we need to provide these services. We need to address that now. That's why the shared experiences are so important. We haven't had a mayor of our city with children in the public schools in over 30 years.
The reporting from the Connecticut Mirror, we're going to move into education right here, is that Danbury is the largest city in the state that doesn't have a charter school. Should there be a charter school in Danbury?
So that is a hot topic in Danbury right now. And the way I look at this is very simple. It's not that I'm not a charter school person, but right now I think
yes or no. You're going to be yes or no on it.
No, I'm a not right now. I think we can address the challenges within the confines of our Danbury public school systems. And I say that because if you look around the towns around Danbury, you look at Brookfield, Ridgefield, Newtown, nobody's trying to open up a charter school there. Nobody's trying to open up a charter school in Greenwich. Nobody's trying to open up a charter school in Fairfield, Connecticut. These towns that are investing in education, the conversation in the door for a charter school aren't even happening. But the last 22 years of failed Republican leadership in Danbury and the defunding of our school system has opened up this conversation. Now, as mayor, we have a comprehensive plan of investing in our schools, our teachers, our paraprofessionals, our students. And if we look at that and then we see, listen, we've done all we can, I will meet with the charter schools as well as mayor, then I will be open to all ideas.
You may say that they're defunding education, but I want to be fair to the mayor here because I think he says that they funded schools at least through the budget. What do you think about that?
Well, I think political answers are easy to give. I look at the budget. He fully funded the Board of Education's request. But the request was worked with the mayor's office so he can say he fully funded it. If you go back to our process, the Board of Education presents their budget, their first workshop. It was in January, I believe January 19th, 23. I apologize if my day is wrong. But in that workshop, me and a couple others caught that there was a gap in the budget that was being requested of about just over $4 million, possibly even more, right? Let alone the request this year was $2 million less than the request was last year. With interest rates going up, with the prime borrowing rate going up, that didn't make sense to us either. So we found that there was a gap. We talked about it. When the budget moved over from the Board of Education side to the City Council side, on record, we saw those holes. We talked about those holes. And then after the budget was passed with those holes in it, and propaganda email pretty much was sent from the Board of Education to every parent in Danbury thanking the mayor for fully funded education. 2 days later, middle school, summer school programs get cut. That's not a fully funded budget. A couple weeks after that, they talked about certain teacher positions getting cut. At the last Board of Education meeting before their summer break, the superintendent then presents to the Board of Education that they have to go to the city to request emergency funding from their reserves in the tune of over $3 million. That's not a fully funded budget. These are things you should have seen coming.
I jump in every now and then because we do have a clock on you. We got about 8 minutes or so, something like that left. Yeah, you got all day. You got all day, but we got a nice clock on. I'm excited about this. 888-720-9677 is the number to call. 888-720-9677. Won't you give Roberto Alves a call here and give him a question? We got a question earlier that the mayor fielded about Western Connecticut. Let's stick with education. What do you have to say about WestCon?
I think the city's partnership with WestCon should have happened years ago. Our mayor, while he's only been mayor for this term, was chief of staff for 6 years before this. So these relationships could have been built. I have also met with Dr. Singh. I'm incredibly excited to the energy that this man brings and his experience. I look forward to working with him when we're mayor because I have ideas for WestCon too. I believe that Connecticut is really in dire need of a Polytech Institute. And why not Western Connecticut? We're right on the border. There's a market we can tap there being so close to New York. Danbury is geographically blessed, right? We're a commute away from major employment centers. Is why Danbury over, the last decades and its history has always done well because we are geographically blessed. Let's be honest, right? Under both parties' leaderships, it's done okay because you're a commute away from New York City, you're a commute away from White Plains, you're a commute away from Hartford, New Haven, Stamford. See where I'm going here? Yeah. So we have to tap that into recruiting and marketing of our city with the synergy between university and town, because now you look at those folks on the New York border who might be thinking about SUNY schools, but the closest SUNY school is probably an hour and a half, 2 hours away. We should be recruiting them into Connecticut.
And you may be more than just geographically blessed because at Western Connecticut State University, you have the arts and culture maven of Jimmy Green teaching music down there. So you guys are very lucky
and a beautiful
to
facility.
have him at WestCon. Hey, what are your thoughts about what to do with the Danbury Mall? I asked the mayor about that earlier. Like, we think about the double-decker carousel. We think about all the memories we might have had as a child there. Yeah. Malls are shutting down in general. What do you think? What can a mayor do?
So a mayor can be a vocal advocate. A mayor can work with the organization. What a mayor can do and city leadership can do is come to the table when an organization like the mall is suing the city because they don't believe their assessment's right, and then the city gets their tails handed to them in a lawsuit that cost the city millions of dollars when they could have settled with the mall. That's a true partnership. I also believe in the direction the mall is going. We talked about before being a business traveler. I've traveled all over the world, and the most successful malls I've seen in anywhere in the world are the ones that have been able to become entertainment centers and draws. I've seen things like universities and malls, dentist office, doctor's office, bowling alleys, movie theaters, you name it, I've seen it.
One thing you'd like to see in that mall then? What one thing you'd like to see in there?
Well, I'm excited.
The housing?
The housing works. And they're by the highway, one thing that hasn't been mentioned is we're getting a Target put in our mall. So Targets do well still. So that's an anchor store. So that's working. But then we should also look at the mall's property, not just within the mall's confines. I think Connecticut is desperately needing a draw type venue in one of our cities, and we have the property for it. Why not try to work with organizations like Topgolf?
You want to put
to
like
do
an
things
amphitheater
like
or something
like
that?
a Topgolf.
Oh, Topgolf.
Things like
Gotcha.
that, right? We can advocate for things that are entertaining, that draw, that people go from a certain radius to come in. The mall's doing well. It can always do better, and we should advocate for that. And the mayor should be working with them, not hindering their growth by fighting lawsuits that you're going to lose.
We got a call, which is exciting. We got a friend from Hartford that's giving us a call, but I don't have it yet on my screen, so we'll bring that in a second. I'm going to ask you first about zoning then. Some changes to the downtown area proposed. I think they're asking people for their feedback. What do you think about zoning? Or downtown? What should happen downtown?
Again, talk about opportunity areas. We have the bones, we have the character, we have the diversity to make this a draw. Traveling all over the world, I see what we can do. We need to incentivize businesses to come up. I think we got to work with our state legislators and the state to maybe figure out how we can speed up the commute time from Danbury to Stamford, so that way we can work with people who are being priced out of there. As folks move into New York to Connecticut, folks also move out of certain areas in Connecticut up and into other areas. We can work to get satellite offices. We need a somewhat of a tech hub or any kind of industrial hub to draw that 9 to 5 person into Danbury, especially into downtown, so it's not just a bedroom community.
We got a call. It's from Lou in Hartford. Go ahead. What's your question, Lou?
How much emphasis should local issues be placed on the agenda for local state representatives or lawmakers?
So
go ahead, Roberto.
Lou, thank you for that question. I think we hear the old term that's so accurate. All politics are local, right? So everything should be emphasized there. I think we take national and statewide issues to the heart of every decision. But especially when it comes to municipal governments, what we're talking about people's everyday lives. We're talking about those kitchen table issues. I like to talk about the front door test. You open your front door and what do you see? So everything we do should have that emphasis on what the local folks need and what local government can do for them.
Very nice and simple way to talk about Lou there. You're talking about zoning. I want to go back to that. You want to talk about commute times, things like that. Al Robinson's very passionate about this. We're going to talk to him later. There's no bus system in and out of Greater Danbury. I can't even speak today. So Greater Danbury?
We have the Housatonic area. We have the HART transportation. Again, if you talk to anybody who works with HART and goes to meetings, there's
nothing that can really take you to New York or Hartford, right?
No, but we can expand on that. But how can, if a mayor isn't actively speaking vocally for their city, and this mayor and his predecessor haven't, the HART board, this bus system that can be better, has meetings. They have meetings where the heads of cities have a seat at the table. Ours doesn't show up. Ours doesn't go to this meeting. So how can you possibly advocate for this dire need that will help with congestion on our roads, will help with opening up, making commuting easier to other towns? We talked about being geographically blessed. We know there's people who live in Danbury but work elsewhere. But their voices aren't being heard because the mayor is a spokesperson for this community, for this city, but they're not showing up to the meetings. This is public record. We can look it up and look at the attendance rate.
You got 90 seconds left or something like that. New York City. Getting down there. Johanna Hayes is talking about securing a grant, at least for the study, to open up another line that's been unused, or at least some track that's been unused. What do you think about that? Trying to maybe bridge the gap to New York City. There's going to be a lot of people that want to come to Danbury to travel to the city if I'm in Hartford or something like that.
I think they can save about 15 minutes from the commute, and I'll be honest, I apologize if I don't know if it's both ways combined or if it's each there. I'm for it. If it makes financial sense for the Danbury residents. I could only imagine the hundreds of millions of dollars this will cost to lay out new track. There's 2 states involved. There are 2 different tracks involved, 2 different types of trains. So we're getting those studies done. What I wished is that in parallel to those, we'd also be advocating for our line too, the Danbury line that goes into Stamford, but also connect that line into Milford and talk about getting that New Milford line connected to Great Barrington. So now you get all the leaf peekers and we can really do more with it. We have to have a broader vision, not just blinders on for one thing that sounds really good.
You got 20 seconds. Why should you be mayor?
Well, it comes down to passion, but then honesty and accountability and shared experiences. I love Danbury, that's why I never left. We have a mayor who we're having honesty issues with, but for the last 15 years wasn't even living in the city, was living in another town.
10 seconds.
And has never answered, if Danbury's so great, then why did you leave? I'm driven. My kids are in Danbury schools. I work for a Danbury company. We are there every day for the Danbury resident.
Roberto Alves, thank you so much, and good luck in the election against Mayor Dean Esposito, a grudge match, if you will, a rematch from 4 years ago. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you, everyone.
Two great opportunities to hear from candidates on the issues today. Coming up, analysis. We got blogger Al Robinson on, and also Ebong Udama from WSHU. Give us a call, 888-720-9677, 888-720-9677. This is the Wheelhouse from Connecticut Public Radio. I'm Frankie Graziano. You just got to hear from both candidates in the Danbury mayoral race. I'm pretty excited about that. I think it went pretty well. What do you think about it? Give us a call, 888-720-9677. If you like that we talk to candidates, 888-720-9677. I do want to bring on two people here that are going to help us unpack what we just heard. Here with us are Alfonso Robinson, writer for the progressive blog MyLeftNutmeg.com. Love that title, Alfonso. How are you today?
Doing good. And yourself?
I'm doing well. And Ebong Udama, senior political reporter, WSHU. Good morning, Ebong.
Hi, Frankie. Hello, Alfonso. Nice to meet you.
Good morning to you.
Oh, this is going to be a good one, and we gotta start right away with Roberto Alves saying towards the end of the program there, I gave him 20 seconds there because he still had time on the clock, and he ran with it. Al, is it true that Mayor Esposito doesn't live in the town, or he moved out? Can you help us unpack that?
He moved back to he was a resident of Brookfield for a while, and he moved back after he during the last I think 2021 during the race.
Does that kind of thing matter? I know we hear that a lot in politics where people talk about where you live. That came up with George Logan when he ran against Johanna Hayes. Do you think the people of Danbury care about that?
Well, I think George Logan's case was a little different because he was living in a completely different district than the fifth. So I think it's a little different. If it made a difference, I don't know, because Dean won the race last time. So people heard that story last time, and they picked him. I think right now, with the property taxes going up because of the reeval and issues, a lot of issues are happening in the city because Danbury, in terms of growth, was number 2 in the state, second behind Stanford. So we're growing exponentially. We have a lot of concerns in the city. I think people are more concerned about what are we doing going forward as opposed to somebody's residency.
Ebong, because there's such a big immigrant population in Danbury, what do we know about the eligibility of some of these residents to cast their ballots in races like this? We talk about people coming in from out of country, and there's been such a great population influx in Danbury. Do we know if they have an opportunity to vote? Are these potential voters? Are they going to be citizens? What's the word?
Well, it was interesting that Alves said that he came in as an undocumented person, and that is one of the interesting facts about Danbury. For instance, Danbury has more registered Democrats than Republicans, but for the past 22 years, it's been run by Republicans, and they have a supermajority in the city council. So that means that there's not that much participation from Democrats in the elections, and a lot of people can't vote. A lot of the residents cannot vote. So a smaller and smaller group of people make the decisions because they can vote and they participate in the elections. And that's, most large cities in Connecticut have been run by Democrats for years. And Danbury has been kind of different. And I think it's because of the large immigrant population that they have, many who cannot vote.
I want to jump into the charter schools thing just so that we can cover this because it's going to be vast. So I'm skipping around here a little bit. But I looked up enrollments on the State Association of Schools websites, and 3,575 kids go to school at Danbury High, by far and away the most populated public school in the state. Officials say that a charter school in Danbury would take 1,100 high school students and 300 middle school students. I don't know if it would take them out of the current high school and middle school that are there, but that's what they say is something that the population is. I talked to Jessica Harkey. She's an education reporter at the Connecticut Mirror. She's spoken with a middle school student named Barbara Luna. Luna's an English language learner. She emigrated to the United States from Ecuador. Luna's told Harkey that she's had a difficult time, particularly since the pandemic hit.
My teacher at the end of the day was Google Translate. I wasn't getting that one-on-one attention. I wasn't able to work with the teacher directly. So every time I had class, every time I had homework, I would go line by line through Google Translate to translate it into Spanish and then back to English and then English back to Spanish and back and forth. And she was just saying that she was really struggling with how the school system was so big.
We did hear how the charter school hasn't happened yet because there isn't support from the state legislature. Al, why isn't the state legislature behind this? How are residents feeling about the charter school situation?
You have a situation where you just have two sides who have a difference in opinion upon whether we need a charter school or not. We have, State Senator Julie Kushner and State Representative Bob Godfrey and State Representative Farley Santos who are opposed to it. And then on the other side, you have the Republican state lawmakers, as well as the mayor, the majority of the city council, and currently the mayor, the majority of the Board of Ed, who's in favor of it. This has been going back and forth for a number of years, and I don't see it being resolved anytime soon. But, outside of the charter schools, you want to talk about the education in itself. Yeah, yes, Danbury High is by far the largest high school, and I'm sure, every year you can find, you'll look on social media, you'll see people, kids crowded in classrooms, crowded in the hallways. And something, will have to be done about that because, again, we are number 2 in terms of growth in the last 10 years. So education is going to have to be addressed. And with education, that means spending more tax dollars. We might need a new high school over on the west side of Danbury because the west side of Danbury is growing more than the rest of the city. And not only high school, but secondary schools as well. We have a big issue with education, but, the big debate is comes down upon taxpayer dollars and how much you're willing to spend for it.
Ebong, we had a caller ask. Go ahead. Yeah, jump in on this one.
I think it was quite interesting what Alves had to say about charter schools and the fact that, if you want to spend this money, you can still spend it within the school system and create opportunities. He actually mentioned some of the suburban towns that do not have charter schools and they have no interest in getting charter schools. And he seemed to be making the point that, charter school is not a panacea, that actually spending money on schools might be the way to go and improving the public school system.
Shout out to Democratic Senator in the United States from Connecticut, Richard Blumenthal. He always talks about how one particular thing might not be a panacea. So when I hear the word panacea, I'm always thinking about Richard Blumenthal. So thank you for that, Ebong. I appreciate it. Hey, we were hearing about local politics versus national politics, something like that from the caller. So do you think that party kind of matters in these local races, Ebong? What do you think?
Well, I was just talking with a political scientist yesterday just about this because there's a tremendous amount of voter apathy in local elections. And those are the ones those are the offices that have more impact on the local level, but yet there's very little interest. And yet we're going to have a situation here where the amount of people coming out to vote for the presidential election is probably going to be much higher next year. There's so much interest on a national level and so little interest on a local level. And I was trying to find out from the political scientists why that is so. And they say it's a problem. People just feel that local races don't mean that much to them. And as a matter of fact, we just had primaries in September, and the turnout was in the teens. And that's, party primaries brought out, in Hartford, I believe it was about 17% that showed up to vote. Bridgeport probably had the highest, had about 25%. And she said that was good because normally people do not show up in local elections. And she's trying to figure out how to get, people to understand, voters to understand that local races mean so much in their lives. And I guess unless you have a child in the school system,
I know who has a few children in the school system in Danbury. Al Robinson does. But Al, just to ask you here, you know about party politics there at Danbury. Republicans have control of the mayorship, but is it going to be a Republican-Democrat thing here? And do you think there's going to be apathy in the race? What do you think?
I think a few things.
The kind of apathy that we get in other local elections. I apologize for that. Go ahead.
No, one thing you got to remember that the biggest voting bloc in Danbury is unaffiliated voters, people who are not Democrat or Republican, but they identify as unaffiliated. And Danbury is like Connecticut. We're like slow and steady habits. We like our incumbents. You look at Mark Boughton for 20 years. Before that, Gene Eriquist for 10 years. You can go back to Jim Dial, who was a mayor he would have been mayor for a lot longer if it wasn't for the indictment that he had. I hear you. I hear about national politics, and it drives me crazy because I hear people all the time talking about Joe Biden and stuff going on in Washington. I'm like, hey, I need you over here to help me deal with this pothole. Can we go down to these town hall meetings and start, bring all the energy you have for the national level and bring it for your local things, because the amount of stuff you can influence on a national level is minute compared to all the great things you can do on a local level. And I don't, for the life of me, I still don't understand to this day why people have so much more interest on the national things when you can be very effective using that same energy to take care of your roads, make sure that your kids get a quality education, and make sure that your roads are plowed during a snowstorm. I wish there was more interest on a local level, but it's just the way it is. So, and I don't know what the answer is for.
So you're talking about voter apathy there, but I want to talk about the issues because I could sense a little frustration in your voice when we've been doing kind of a pre-interview in the past and we're talking. And in this race, obviously, you're paying attention to issues that you care about. As I mentioned, you have 2 kids in the school district over there. So after hearing from these 2 candidates in the interview, did I make you feel a little bit better about the future of Danbury, or do you still have questions? Are these guys focused on the issues? Do they have a vision? What do you think, Al?
I'm still have questions. I want to ask them a few more questions later on because we're sitting here. Mark Boughton's no longer mayor. He was mayor for 2 decades. And now that he's no longer here, we need to find out what these individuals' vision, their true vision with moving Danbury forward is. Because we're paying a lot of money in property taxes, and we need to know what you're going to do with our money and how you're going to do to make Danbury a better place going forward. And we need to hear from these individuals, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's education, whether it's the downtown dilemma, whether it's just basic quality of life issues. I'd like to know if I can get my sidewalk, repaired on my road, especially when I'm paying $12,000 in property taxes every year.
Oh, so boy, that's a lot.
These issues need to be addressed, and we need to find out from these guys what's the plan for moving Danbury forward. And whoever's got the best plan should win.
Al, this was a great answer to that question. I appreciate it.
Is it going to be a close?
Go ahead,
Evan.
We got about a minute left. I just want to let you guys know that we have about a minute left. Go ahead, Evan.
Is it going to be as close as it was the last time around? Because it was about 50 vote difference.
Well, let me just jump in real because we only got about a minute.
20 seconds, actually.
Okay, if you look at the last race in 2001, the last open race between Mark Boughton and Chris Sotero, that was a very close race as well. The next year, Mark Boughton had a very big outcome. So I would say that it could be, I say Dean should win the race, but Roberto could win the race.
This was terrific. And again, Al's going to talk to the candidates at myleftnutmeg.com, so you're going to want to pay attention to that. And, of course, the great political work and continued breaking news work that Ebong Udama does at WSHU. Those were our guests. We're going to continue our coverage on mayoral candidate interviews next week. West Haven mayoral candidates Republican Barry Lee Cohen and Democratic State Rep Dorinda Boer are on the show. Give them some questions. Wheelhouse at ctpublic.org, or you can call. Today's show produced by Meg Dalton. Technical producer is Kat Praster. Thank you for listening to the show.